Hello, welcome to Upcycle TV. I'm Stuart, and in this video I'm going to do something which I see a lot of people asking about, and that's how easy is it to skim a wall. So we're going to be plastering today. Okay, so the area that we're going to be working on today is just this small space behind me. I think it's probably best practice for you when you're beginning and learning to practice plastering is to not do anything bigger than this sort of size here. This is the last bit we've got to do in this room. We've basically plastered an entire garage conversion. But yeah, this is the last bit, and it's, as I say, it's about the right size that you want to be working on when you first start plastering, because anything too big and you have to work a lot faster. So this way, you can go at a nice steady pace. And if you have got a big wall, then you can always section it off and do bits of the wall at a time and then join them in. In fact, it is what we're doing. So if you look above me, I don't know if you can see on the camera here, but there's a join here. This is where it's been plastered at the top, and there's a join here. So we've got to skim into that and feather it in so that it becomes invisible, basically. You won't see the join when it's plastered. Where do we begin? Depending on what you're actually doing. Today, as I said, we're plastering straight onto a plasterboard wall, so there isn't really any serious prep. We've already done the angle beads, which you will need if you're doing something that comes to an end. They're basically thin metal beads, and you could nail them on, stick them on, whatever, and it just gives you a really sharp edge and a strong edge. So if anything bangs against that corner, it's not going to chip the plaster off. And obviously you need tools and you need plaster, so I'm just going to go through that now. And it's worth noting that the tools that you need for plastering, I'm going to put everything that you need in the description. So I'm going to start going through that now. If there's anything that I miss while I do this, I may later add it on because sometimes I forget stuff. So basically, the camera rolls us down here. We're going to see 2 plastering buckets. You want two of these, and these ones are plasterers buckets, so they're nice and tall. When you're mixing up, it reduces the splash out of the bucket. It's nice tall ones. Okay, so there's 2 of those. You'll need a plasterer's trowel, and you'll need a hawk as well, which is one of these. This is a flat one, so we've got our plaster on there, and we take it off here, and then onto the wall. So hawk and trowel, and you'll need something to mix the plaster as well. So you can. This is a paddle. Now you can buy a paddle with a one-hole component which mixes your plaster, and it's got a trigger at the top here. Relatively cheap. I think you can pick them up for about £50 for a sort of decent one. I've got an old DeWalt drill which has the old style chuck key mechanism thing on it, and this paddle is a separate piece. So you can just buy these paddles if you've got a drill that will fit it. And I've had this drill like 20 years and it's still going strong. So I use it for my old jobs like plastering. But yeah, I just clamp that on there, nice and tight, and when that spins, is how we mix the plaster. Do not try and mix the plaster by hand. It's way too hard. By the time you've actually mixed it with a stick, the plaster will be going off. This is probably the most important point. You want to try and do as much prep, have as much stuff as you can to hand, so that you're not flapping around when you're plastering. Because once you've started plastering, you have to finish it and you're on a time limit. So get everything you could possibly think of to hand. And one thing that's really, really important is that you have a water supply, a hose or something that's really close by, because you will need water quite a lot. There's a lot of cleaning and prep involved in plastering. Anyway, we're going to get mixing now. So I'd just like to say, if you're finding this video useful, please subscribe to the channel, please like it, and please share. And by the way, I'm not a trade plasterer, so I wouldn't be able to do this by trade. I've learnt it by watching other people do it, and sort of built up my skill over time and got a bit better and a bit quicker at it. But I couldn't do this for a living. I've just done this room in here, and I'm really done with plastering. I'm really thankful this is the last bit that we've got to do. But having said that, I can do it to a standard that's acceptable, and I can get it done in a reasonable time and all those kinds of things. So if there are any tradesmen on here, fine. If you want to come on here and be negative and criticise me, that's cool. Go ahead and do so. I really don't care. But if you've got any tips for me, I'm all ears, and would love to hear that. And anything I can do to get better at it, would be great too. Although I don't really want to be doing too much more plastering. Okay, anyway, let's go. So when we're mixing up, going back to the buckets before we mix up, we've got this one, which is about half full with water. That is our backup bucket, what I call my dirty bucket. We'll see what that's for in a minute. And then this bucket here, we have to make sure we keep it immaculately clean. I know this doesn't look particularly clean, but all that's a lot of plastering over the last sort of, I don't know, 6 months to a year. I've had this bucket, I've done quite a lot of plastering in it, and it's caked on, so it's not loose. You can see inside the bucket, down the bottom, it's clean. Okay, because we don't want any bits, we don't want any old flaky plaster or anything like that falling into the clean water, because when you put the plaster onto the wall, you'll get those bits and it will mess you up, it will cause all sorts of problems. So we don't want that. So nice clean bucket. And so before we mix up then, so I know for the space that I've got here, we're looking at about 1/4 of a bag of plaster, and I've got half a bag down there. So my water is filled up to roughly about there. So I'm going to it'll take roughly 1/4 of a bag of plaster, and we'll mix that in to a nice lovely creamy paste, and then off we go. So the plaster that you need is called, I nearly lost it all then. It's called multi-finish, okay? It comes in these bags. It's a nice sort of pinky, reddy, orangey colour on the front and white. You can get it from your usual places, Wicks and stuff. But again, I will leave some links in the description. So to mix up the plaster then, what you don't want to do is chuck all your plaster in that you're going to use straight into the bucket. You want to mix it in a bit at a time. So I've got, what I'm using to put it in is a little trowel like that shape. I don't know what you call that, but it's a nice shape. It's a nice tool to get a nice chunk of plaster on the thing like that. And then put it in there, and we just mix it in. We take our paddle, in it goes, and we start mixing. Already the water's starting to go a browny colour. I say, just take a bit of time. Try not to spill it like I just did, and throw your plaster in there, give it a mix. And just keep going like that until you've got paste, which I'll show you the consistency you want in a minute. So in it goes. So as it starts to thicken like this, it's really important you don't put too much in. Another thing to remember as well is to make sure that you're getting right to the bottom with your paddle and pushing it right in so it gets right into all everywhere. Make sure that you haven't got any pools of the powder, the plaster not mixed up. Otherwise, we're good to go. I'll show you the consistency in a minute, but very importantly here is we come back now to our other bucket. Let's just pop those on there. So here. So in our other bucket now, we're straight ready to go. This is why it's really important that you're not flapping around now trying to get things ready. So we've got wet plaster on here. In our dirty bucket, just pop it in, and you're just giving it a whiz over now. And there you go. So it saves a lot of messing around later. Just push that to the side and we can start plastering. Okay, so we've got trowel and our hawk. So actually one other little tool, something like this. Any sort of trowel will do really here. But we just need something. We're going to scoop the plaster out and put onto our hawk. Then I can show you the consistency. See that? That's about right. Some people do it a bit thinner, some people do it a bit thicker, but you want it so, that's how I like it. So it's just falling off. And it holds its own weight, but it's not too thick. I hope on the video you can see. So just put a nice dollop on there. Don't do too much, about there. Nice big sort of dollop like that. Okay, and then we're going to start putting it on the wall. So this is how we put it on the wall then. Get down, start at the bottom, start at one corner, and we can, probably got a little bit too much on there. Really dropped a bit. If you do drop a bit like that, don't bother picking it up, because you're just going to pick up all the little bits of dust and stuff on the floor. But essentially what we're doing, see, that's about the right amount you want for one load. So you have just scraped that off onto the hawk there. Okay, so then push it against the wall, and then as you go up, close the distance of the trowel like that. And you can see that go on like so. And then you can just go back over it. When you're smoothing out like this, well, not really smoothing out at the moment, but as you're pushing it across like that, you'll just, it's ever such a slight gap. So this bit is on the plaster, it's just touching the plaster, and this bit is probably a couple of centimetres away. A couple of centimetres angle, so very tight angle. You just push your plaster on. And this is probably one of those sort of important things to remember is, at this stage right now, all you're doing is trying to cover up all the little holes. Okay, so we're not looking to get it perfectly smooth. We're not looking to, you know, a finished plaster job here. All we're doing, really, ideally, is getting the plaster onto the wall as quick as possible, but we want it flat, okay? We don't want to miss too many sort of bits out. We'll just go over it a couple of times, just smoothing it like that. Okay, so there's the first lot there. Now we do a second one. And just repeat that process. So I'm going to go in the middle now. So 1, let's count them then. 3, 4, 5. Let's try that. That's 5 blobs of that. Try and get it on one trowel load like that. And then on we go. Up we go. There we go. And we'll go again. So it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Trowel. We don't need to go right to the bottom because, well, in most cases you're going to have skirting along there. So as long as it's kind of, to a certain extent, feathered out, it'd be absolutely fine. I'll say, don't mess around with it too much at this stage. The priority is making sure that we get on all the plaster onto the wall as quickly as possible, because then we'll need to wash all our tools, have a cup of tea, then mix up again. We're going to be putting on a second coat, which at that stage you're nearly at the end. I'm going to ask again, because we get a lot of people watching the videos and liking our videos and commenting, but we don't get a good ratio of subscribers, so please do subscribe to the channel. It's really, really helpful. It means I can keep making these videos and hopefully helping you all with your projects. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people say plastering is a skill, it's a trade, you can do it. When anybody says anything like that, I sort of make it a mission really to prove to myself, to prove to anyone else that you actually can do it. There's nothing really you can't do, but I guess, yeah, it's not easy, it takes a bit of practice, but if you get those key fundamentals, as in making sure this first coat, you get the plaster on the wall nice and quickly, don't mess around with it too much, then you're not going to go too far wrong. And listen, worst case scenario, if you wanted to try plastering and you do get it wrong, you do mess it up, then you know, you can then at that stage pay a plasterer to come in and sort it out and redo it and replaster it. There we go. Right, just about going to have enough plaster. That was a good guess for the amount, actually. Okay. Anyway, we're just finishing off now. I just realised what I should have done was wet this bit across the top here, where the old... Why are you answering me, you bloody idiot?
Sorry.
God's sake, the cameraman's answering me. So, I've just realised that I should have wet the plaster that's up here, the dry old plaster, because it's going to just absorb this new plaster. It would have reduced that a bit, but that's okay, that's fine. We'll work with it. Okay, so the plaster's on. Where this line is here, I'm just going to scrape a bit off, because otherwise that's going to cause us a few issues. Otherwise, that's fine. Got a few lumps in there, but that'll be alright, that's fine. Move that off on the next bit. Got a little bit of an issue here where the beading is sticking out a bit too far, but that's fine. I'll get over that on the next coat. Okay, I'm going to stop messing around with it now. So what I'm going to do now is just clean out the bucket with the plaster in it. There's not much left in there, I've basically used it all. I'm going to clean that up now, clean all my tools up, and basically repeat again. So fill up the bucket with a little bit of water, have a little break, and then it's just about seeing when this is going to be dry enough, ready to put the second coat on. So it needs to be where it's just going off. It's not dry, but it's just starting to set. And I'll try and explain what that looks like and how we know that. But yeah. Oh no!
What's that?
Okay, finished my coffee break now. We're going to mix up the next lot of plaster. Now, how do you know when to mix up the next plaster? Well, it's a difficult one for the second coat. I mean, you can pretty much get away with doing it whenever, really, as long as it's not too dry. But I like to do it when it's just about touch dry. See that's definitely ready to go. But there are some other areas here that are a little bit more sticky. Then you get the residue, and it's just not quite there. But it's gonna vary. As well, you know, especially with a big wall. So anyway, I'm happy with it. I'm going to get mixing. Coffee break over. Let's go. Okay, now I've got my second coat on. I'm just going over it now, line by line. Just flatten it out like that. And then if there's any like little holes where there's not quite enough plaster, just pop a little bit on over those holes. Go back over it. You're holding it nice and light now. Just letting the tool do the work. You might be thinking at this stage, oh gosh, it's really rough. Yeah, it might feel like it, but don't worry, because this isn't the smoothing part. It's not smoothing yet, so don't panic. Okay, so one other thing I like to do after the second coat bobbly bit that's pissing me off.
Oh, I don't know. It's good.
It's better. Continue. Now, yeah, we're at the final stages, so just keep playing with the plaster until you're happy with it, basically. You can see I've still got a few little marks here and there. It's because I've been playing with it too quickly. I need to let it go off just that little bit more, but I'm also anxious that it's going to set too much because I'm taking too long whilst I'm explaining on the video. So I'm just playing around with it. But you can see overall it's smooth, and what you'll begin to see when you're doing this is that there are patches that are like a different colour. You can see where it's dried, and it'll be nice and smooth as well, those bits. So that's where you're trying to just take it back to that. Essentially, you're taking off more than anything else at this stage. You take a lot of plaster off. But yeah, just keep going. You can brush it on if you want to. That's probably not advised, but you can see when you drag back over, you get that lovely smooth finish. So we literally, as long as it's gone, we could do that now. Up all the way across, top to bottom, and that should leave us a lovely smooth skimmed surface.